Well, Jodie McKay has officially resigned as leader of the Labor Party. Chris Minns is set to become the new leader, but there's speculation this afternoon he could be challenged by former leader Michael Daly. Now, thanks to the new Kevin Rudd rules, if Daly was to fight Minns for the leadership, a ballot could take 3 months. Now, on the line is Labor stalwart, former power broker Graham Richardson. G'day, Richo.
G'day, how are you, Jim?
Gee, this could get messy, and the circus could roll on for months, Richo.
If Michael Daly runs, it is an act of pure bastardry. He knows he can't win, and so it's only being done to be a spoiler. You shouldn't be a spoiler for your own mob. And I think it'd be an appalling decision if he ran.
Why would he put his hand up again, Richo? He already had his chance and lost to Gladys at the 2019 election. He even suffered more than a 2% swing against him in his own seat of Maroubra.
I know, mate. I could give you a whole list of reasons why he shouldn't run. I can't think of one reason why he should. But he's talking about doing it. I hope that people get hold of him and make him see sense because he's had his run. He couldn't do it. It's time to give someone else a go.
Can Chris Minns unite Labor, Richo?
I think Labor's relatively united anyway. I don't think there's any great big brawl at the moment. The factions have been quiet for years. There aren't the left-right brawls that were around 20 years ago. So it's pretty quiet as it is. Just you've got to remember, you're beating a phenomenon in Gladys for trying to. I mean, she's been there a long time. She's very, very good at what she does. She's pretty well mistake-free. And, trying to beat Gladys Berejiklian is a hell of a job. And you need a very united Labor Party. And if it was me and I was Chris Minns getting a Guernsey, I'd have a two-election plan to win because I think it's pretty hard to win straight up. Now, he can't say that. He'd have to say he's going to win straight away. All politicians say, I'm going to win. But realistically, this is a tough call.
What do you think Chris Minns would bring to the table as leader of the opposition?
A very keen intellect. And the other thing about him that I really like is he's a warrior. And we need a warrior because, you know something? Well, she might look very peaceful and all the rest of it. Gladys is a pretty good political warrior. She knows how to fight, and she's done it very effectively for years.
What did you make of Jodie McKay's resignation and her emotional speech? She didn't take questions from the media. What did you make of her media conference earlier?
Oh, look, it's an incredibly difficult thing to do, to stand up and say, basically, my mob are telling me I've failed and I've got to go. Now, how do you say that nicely? Pretty hard. So I think she did a reasonable job. But, people never want to accept the fact that perhaps they haven't lived up to their own expectations, let alone everybody else's. It seems to me that you've got to acknowledge your weaknesses as well as your strengths. And had I been Jodie, I would have said, well, I did have a reasonable go. I couldn't do it. I've got a responsibility to my party to hand over to someone who can. And
Jodie McKay says that she would, even this afternoon, says she's still the most popular person to lead in caucus. What would you say to that?
I'd say I doubt that very much. I mean, people have to cling to these things to keep themselves going. But I think the caucus after Upper Hunter the other day, there'd be a lot of people shaking their heads and saying, it's time.
Well, clearly the image and the key messages of Labor need to change. I mean, you have one half of the party pushing for renewables and zero emissions, but that same faction is abandoning your key voters, the worker, the miners. So how can the party keep the support, Richo, of the workers, but also appease the factions pushing for things like renewables?
Well, I think everybody accepts that there's got to be some renewables. It's a matter of how quickly that you implement these things, and it's also a matter of how you look after the miners along the way. In my view, we're going to be using coal for a very long time, and all these people who are predicting the end of it are kidding themselves. So if I was a coal miner, I wouldn't be too worried. I think my job would be pretty safe. No one's going to get rid of coal in this country for decades.
So if Chris Minns becomes leader, and What does Labor need to do moving forward? And what's the message also for federal Labor under Albo?
Well, I never believe that the state and federal things are together. I've always said it, whether we're in government or not. And so I think it means bugger all for Albo. That's the real truth. It's got nothing to do with it. The only thing that benefit that he can gain from it is that a new leader may enthuse the party, enthuse party workers and party supporters, and that might start to improve polls in its time. So that's the only relevance to Anthony from this.
But I suppose where I'm coming from is that for both state and federal Labor, they need to get back to their core values, being the worker.
Yeah, I think sometimes you get carried away, and I think we've gone to about 3 elections in a row talking about renewables, and we got beaten at each one of them. And what do you think you're going to do if you bang that against the wall? You think it's not going to keep getting bruised? I mean, you should have learnt the lesson by now. Now, the public agree, I think, by and large, that we need to have more renewables, but they are nowhere near deciding that they want expensive power. They want the cheapest power possible, and every mug knows that's coal. So I don't think coal will be going anytime soon.
Just one final one for you, Richo. Do you think Jody McKay will have a place on a shadow cabinet if Chris Minns takes the leadership?
Oh, look, if he's got any brains, and I think he has, of course she will. She should be a senior minister in a Labor government, and she'd do a good job in the shadow ministry. So if I was Chris, I'd certainly be giving her a place at the table.
Richo, always good to chat. Thanks very much, mate, and have a good weekend.
Good on you, mate. Same to you. Up the dragon.
I knew you'd say that. That's Labor stalwart Graham Richardson.